starts as a physical weight. It's not a sharp pain, but a dull, grey pressure that settles right behind your sternum. It's the anticipation of the alarm clock. That specific, jarring digital chime that cuts through your dreams and drags you back into the cold reality of a Monday morning. You know the feeling I'm talking about. It's the sensation of trading your life, hour by agonizing hour, for a paycheck that barely covers the cost of existing in a city that's too loud and too expensive. You sit in your car, or on the subway, staring at the back of a stranger's coat, and you feel the Sunday scaries bleed into the Monday morbidities. You walk into the building, the fluorescent lights hum with that insect-like buzz, and you can physically feel your soul contracting, shrinking down into a small, hard knot just to survive the next 8 hours of spreadsheets, customer complaints, or pointless meetings about other meetings. You wonder if this is it. If this is the high cost of adulthood, just the slow erosion of your potential until you're too tired to care about whatever it was you wanted to be when you were 17. I need to confess something before we go any further. I am not immune to this. I am not speaking to you from a mounting top of professional enlightenment. I have spent years of my life sitting in ergonomic chairs that hurt my back, staring at dual monitors until my vision blurred, waiting for the clock on the bottom right of the screen to change from 529 to 530. I have hidden in bathroom stalls just to get 5 minutes of silence away from a manager who used the word synergy unironically. I have felt that caustic mix of boredom and resentment that tastes like stale office coffee. I've caught myself scrolling through job boards on my lunch break, fantasizing about becoming a woodworker or a forest ranger, anything that felt real, only to close the tab and go back to answering emails from people who reply, "Please advise," in bold red text. I know the trap because I have lived in the trap. We tell ourselves that we are just temporarily embarrassed millionaires, or temporarily embarrassed artists, waiting for our real life to begin, while we let the actual days of our lives slip through our fingers in a haze of mild irritation. To understand why this hurts so much, we have to look at the history of the dream job. It's a relatively new invention, you know. For most of human history, work was simply a survival mechanism. You plowed the field because if you didn't, you starved. You shod the horse because the village needed horses. But somewhere in the last 50 years, we bought into a dangerous narrative. The idea that our labor must also be the source of our spiritual fulfillment. We started believing that our job shouldn't just pay the rent. It should also be our passion, our identity, and our legacy. This is the anchor that drags us down. I remember reading about a young man in the 1920s who worked a dull, repetitive job as a patent clerk. He spent his days reviewing technical drawings, checking for minor errors, stamping forms. It was bureaucratic. It was tedious. It was definitely not changing the world in real time. But that clerk didn't look at the job as a reflection of his soul. He looked at it as a patron. That steady paycheck and the quiet hours of the patent office brought in the mental space to think about light and time and gravity. That clerk was Albert Einstein. He didn't demand that the patent office give him meaning. He used the patent office to fund his meaning. Here is the diagnosis. The psychological trap we fall into is called the identity fusion. We have fused our self-worth with our economic output. When the job is boring, we feel boring. When the job is pointless, we feel pointless. We walk around with this gaping wound, waiting for our employer to fill it with validation, purpose, and excitement. But asking a corporation, or a gig economy app, or a retail chain to provide you with spiritual nourishment is like trying to quench your thirst by eating sand. It's not designed for that. The lie we tell ourselves is, if I just find the right job, I will finally be happy. But the truth is much more uncomfortable. The misery doesn't come from the work itself. It comes from the gap between what the work is and what we demand it to be. We are angry at the toaster for not being a television. When we stop expecting our jobs to be our lovers, our parents, and our priests, the resentment begins to lift. We have to shatter the romantic myth of the vocation to survive the reality of the occupation. Let's introduce a new philosophy. I want to offer you the concept of instrumentalism. In this framework, your job is not the destination, it is the fuel. Stop looking at your 9 to 5 as a prison sentence and start viewing it as a venture capitalist. Your employer is effectively an angel investor who is funding the startup of You, Inc. Every hour you trade is a transaction where you are extracting resources, money, health insurance, stability, to build the life you actually want outside those walls. This isn't cynicism, it is liberation. When you adopt the transactional truce, you stop bringing your heart to work to be trampled on. You bring your competence, your professionalism, and your skills, but you leave your soul safely at home where it can't be touched by quarterly reviews or budget cuts. You are not a customer service representative. You are a writer who is currently funded by a customer service grant. You are not a data analyst. You are a musician who is sponsored by a data analysis firm. By reframing the power dynamic, you reclaim your dignity. You are no longer a victim of the grind. You are a mercenary, using the grind to build your empire. Now, let's get into the tactics. How do we actually survive the Tuesday afternoon slump? I want to give you 2 specific mental models. The first is what I call the Anthropologist's notebook. When we hate a job, we tend to disassociate. We zone out. I want you to do the opposite. I want you to tune in with hyper-awareness. Imagine you are a spy or a cultural anthropologist sent from another planet to study this strange tribe called the corporate office. Observe the rituals. Notice how people posture in meetings. Analyze the jargon. Watch the power dynamics shift during a lunch break. When you turn your environment into a subject of study, you detach your ego from it. You stop being annoyed by the manager's passive-aggressive email and start fascinated by it as a specimen of human behavior. You say to yourself, fascinating. Look how the subject uses bold font to assert dominance. This slight shift from victim to observer creates a protective layer around your mind. It turns the mundane into the curious. The second tool is the secret skill dojo. If you cannot find meaning in the outcome of your work, find meaning in the process of your character development. Pick one soft skill that you want to master for your own future, not for the company, and use the job as a free training ground. Let's say you want to be more patient. Well, that angry customer screaming in your ear isn't a nuisance anymore. They are a high-level sparring partner in the dojo of patience. If you want to get better at negotiation, use every interdepartmental conflict as a practice simulation. You are stealing education. You are using their time, their equipment, and their stress to sharpen a blade that you will take with you when you leave. You aren't fixing their spreadsheets. You are training your attention to detail for your future novel. You aren't selling their useless product. You are mastering the art of persuasion for your future business. Make the job pay you twice, once in dollars and once in skill acquisition. We spend roughly 90,000 hours of our lives at work. We cannot afford to spend 90,000 hours waiting to live. If you can't leave your job today, that is okay. But do not let it own you. Do not let it colonize your mind. Find the meaning in the freedom the money buys you. Find the meaning in the small kindnesses you show to a coworker who is struggling just as much as you are. Find the meaning in the discipline of doing a task well, simply because you are the kind of person who does things well, regardless of whether the task deserves it. The job is small. You are large. The paycheck is the transaction. Your life is the reality. Take the money. Buy your freedom. Own your time.